What the heck is going on in the world of the WWE today? Not only have the weekly shows actually been really good from an in-ring perspective, but they've actually been pushing the pedal to the metal with storytelling. Because for a long time, it felt like we were in this never-ending Groundhog Day where the same thing would happen over and over again on Raw and SmackDown. But since Crown Jewel, WWE has stepped up their game and delivered major story beats that will rock the foundation of WWE storytelling for the foreseeable future. Just in the past 3 days alone since the recording of this video, we've had not one, not two, but 3 major heel turns, and I think it's fair to say that WWE is in its Breaking Bad phase. Jesse, we have to cook. Just in the past 3 days alone, Asuka turned on Charlotte and Bianca Belair to seemingly join Damage Control. We also saw Santos Escobar feeling emotionally forced to attack his hero Rey Mysterio in one of the best heel turns of the past 10 years. And now Drew McIntyre has gone to the other side and joined forces with none other than Rhea Ripley and the Judgment Day. And it was awesome. Let's talk about it. And as always, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, ring that bell for notifications. If you're a wrestling fan, I know that you're gonna fall in love with this wrestling channel because we upload daily wrestling content. And turning on the notifications will just make sure that you don't miss any of the future videos that we upload. Also, thank you to the waves of people that are supporting over on patreon.com/SantiZap. If you're a Patreon backer, you're gonna get a whole bunch of extra content like the Wrestling is Cool podcast that's gonna be there 3 days early for you. You're gonna get the Raw and SmackDown reviews as well as the wrestling Q&As. In fact, the review of the most recent episode of Raw is already up on Patreon if you want to go check it out. Again, that's patreon.com/SantiZap. The link is in the description or the pinned comment. Go check it out. There might be something that you like. And thank you for all the patrons to helping keep the lights on and the mics on. Look, I know that at this point, the whole idea and concept of Triple H being all about long-term storytelling is teetering on borderline meme status with WWE fans. I mean, how many times have you heard people defend terrible shows and terrible booking decisions by saying, you just don't get it, just wait, you're not being patient, this is all about long-term storytelling. And I can't tell you how many times I heard that idiotic response when Jimmy turned on Jey Uso at SummerSlam. However, weirdly enough, in a weird turn of events, in today's WWE, those maidenless dweebs are kind of right. Because it's just an objective fact that we truly are living in the long-term storytelling era of the WWE. Championship reigns last significantly longer. Feuds go on beyond just one PLE match. There's no instant gratification in anything anymore. And this type of storytelling has its ups and it has its downs. Why? Here's why. Far and away, the biggest con to long-term storytelling is that you're inevitably going to find yourself with weeks, even months of monotony where nothing seems to move forward, where we're just repeating the same story beats over and over and over and over again. And Monday Night Raw has been the biggest culprit of these issues. I mean, just think of how many times Monday Night Raw has started and ended this exact same way for the past 4 months. You ready for this? First, a combination of Cody Rhodes, Jey Uso, Sami Zayn, or Seth Rollins starts the show. Then they are immediately interrupted by the Judgment Day. Then a skirmish happens between the two, and bada bing, bada boom, we have our main event being a singles match or a tag match involving a combination of all of those individuals. That's been Monday Night Raw since SummerSlam, basically. Now they're finally giving us the big payoff to all of this monotony with the upcoming Survivor Series War Games match. So we have to ask ourselves the question of, are the slow and repetitive and monotonous shows worth the big payoff? And the answer is yes, when it's done correctly, and no, when the expected payoff just ends up being another long-term storytelling setup. I mean, look no further than Jey Uso versus Roman Reigns at SummerSlam if you want to see what I mean by an expected payoff turning into just another long-term storytelling piece. It can be really frustrating when that happens. But when long-term storytelling is done correctly, when the narrative actually makes sense, when the buildup actually leads to something meaningful, when it's executed at the right time, It's magical, fellas. And that, my friends, was the Drew McIntyre heel turn that had him attack Jey Uso, costing Jey Uso and Cody Rhodes the tag titles, and Drew seemingly joining forces with Rhea Ripley and the Judgment Day. And this heel turn was only possible because Triple H was in charge. Had it been anybody else, it wouldn't have hit the same way that it did. And that's because Triple H possesses a unique storytelling mechanism that is very unique to him. No one before in the WWE was using this strategy. In fact, Vince McMahon was always vocal against using this strategy. And that strategy is to acknowledge things that happened in the past and have those things shape storytelling in the present and in the future. You see, WWE before Triple H used to treat us like utter morons that couldn't remember anything that happened more than a month ago, and Vince was the worst for doing this with storytelling. Oh hey, they won't remember that they were bitter enemies less than 1 month ago on NXT. Yeah, team up that Ciampa and Gargano guy. Nah, they won't remember that Kofi Kingston lost his title in 5 seconds. Just have him come out the next episode happy-go-lucky, dancing, throwing pancakes, and no, he's not gonna get a rematch. Trust me, they won't remember that Apollo Crews did not have a Nigerian accent, and now he does. They won't notice. But nowadays in the WWE under Triple H, everything and anything has a consequence for future storylines. And this storytelling mechanism was the bedrock for the masterful Drew McIntyre heel turn. Because it all started over a year ago at the WWE Premium Live event Clash at the Castle, where Drew McIntyre was seconds away from winning the undisputed championship from Roman Reigns, only to be thwarted by the actions of the Bloodline. Fast forward almost a year later to WWE Payback, and Cody Rhodes just casually announces that Jey Uso, the right-hand man of the Bloodline, who is now a good guy in storyline purposes, is joining Monday Night Raw, the same place where Drew McIntyre calls home. So Drew McIntyre now sees a guy that was directly involved in making his life a living hell, being part of his house and making himself cozy with all of his friends. Now, had this been the Vince McMahon era of booking, all of the baby faces would have welcomed Jey Uso with open arms, sang "Kumbaya, my lord," and probably made out and spit on each other or something weird. But damn it, this is the Triple H era of booking, and just like the North in Game of Thrones, Drew McIntyre remembers. He remembers all of the attacks. He remembers the friends that were attacked and screwed over by the Bloodline. He remembers everything that they stole from him. He remembers all of those broken dreams. And whether he's somebody that works for the forces of good now, Jey Uso was a physical manifestation, a representation of everything that had gone wrong for Drew McIntyre over the last 12 months. And in a very unlike WWE babyface, he refused to forgive. Justifiably. And in that refusal to forgive, Drew McIntyre grew more jaded, more cynical, and became less of a caricature of the prototypical smiling good guy that always did the right thing. Finally, Drew McIntyre was ready to do things for himself. And he felt ready to do things for himself, and that is why he went after the World Heavyweight Championship and challenged the champion Seth Rollins to a match for the title, a crown jewel. A match where going into it, Drew McIntyre seemed unstoppable. Many of us thought the only way that he loses is with shenanigans, but he lost clean. And in losing that World Heavyweight Championship match cleanly to Seth Rollins, it forced Drew McIntyre to contend with the potential truth that perhaps his failures, like Seth Rollins was saying, weren't just because of the Bloodline, and they weren't because of Jey Uso. Maybe it was all him. Maybe he was never good enough. And in that slight moment of weakness where he felt like he actually wasn't good enough to finally win the big one in front of people, that's where Rhea Ripley stepped in. And Rhea Ripley's soft lies in Drew McIntyre's ears finally clicked for him, and the most ruthless, most selfish, and most powerful version of Drew McIntyre was unleashed to the world. This is going to be a really weird comparison, but if you've watched Dragon Ball Z, just stick with me here, because if you're a Dragon Ball Z fan, you'll recognize that this is very similar to when Vegeta purposely succumbed to Babadi's magic to make himself more ruthless, more violent, and more evil in order to become stronger and defeat Goku, thus giving us evil Majin Vegeta. It's weirdly similar to this. And as the smoke settles from this entire situation, we now have a Drew McIntyre McIntyre heel turn that makes sense, feels justified, and feels earned for the fans. This, fellas, is when long-term storytelling actually works, when payoffs are actually delivered. It makes us all forget about the mundane, repetitive stuff that came before it and lets us focus and gush about the great stuff that the payoff finally gave us. And that's the magic of long-term storytelling. If you give us the payoff that we've been waiting for, it's all dandy. If you don't, we get angry. All right, folks. Well, thank you for watching this little video essay. What do you want to see from Drew McIntyre in his heel turn? Who do you think is going to be the 5th person of the Survivor Series team for Team Cody? Let me know in the comments down below, or you have nothing to say, just put an emoji or say that you love me or something. It helps with the YouTube algorithm if we get more comments, okay? And if you watched all the way to the end here, thank you. Seriously, you're one of the real ones. Really appreciate it. I appreciate you. I really, really appreciate you. All right, I'm done. Get out of here.